Now that we've got our project all set up and ready to go, we can start to actually write out some code. So to get started, I'm going to create a new file inside my project directory called index.ts. Notice the file extension on here is .ts. That's short for, as you might guess, TypeScript. We're always going to place all of our TypeScript code into .ts files. So now inside this file, we can start to actually write out some code to implement our program. And just as a quick reminder, our goal here is to fetch some JSON data and print the result. For this first program, we're going to speed through the implementation very quickly. It's not going to have a lot of TypeScript specific syntax in it just yet. Remember, the goal of this first application is not to learn a bunch of different TypeScript syntax. Instead, I just want to show you why TypeScript is handy. So to get started, we're going to first import that Axios module that we just installed. At the top of the file, I will write out import Axios from Axios like so. After that, I'm going to flip back over to my browser, go to that JSON placeholder endpoint right here, and copy the URL that's going to give me just the first to do. So I'll copy that URL, then go back over to my editor. I'm going to create a variable called URL and assign that URL to it, like so. So now that we've got the URL in here, we can use Axios to make a network request to this URL. To do so, I'll write out axios.get, and then I'll pass in that URL. So that's going to make a HTTP GET request to that URL and attempt to fetch that JSON data. That entire operation is async, so by calling axios.get, we're going to receive a promise in return. So to get a notification on when the request is complete, we can chain on a .then statement that will be called with the response once we get a response from that API. So then inside of here, remember the goal here was to just console log out the JSON data we get back. So I'm going to console log response.data, which should be the actual to-do that we receive back from that API. All right, so let's save this. That's the entire program right here. We are going to make a couple changes to it in just a moment, but let's just try to figure out how to run this code now. Remember, we cannot run TypeScript code directly inside the browser or with Node.js. We have to first compile this file into plain JavaScript, and then we can execute the resulting JavaScript code. So to compile this file right here, we will flip back over to our terminal. Inside of my terminal, I'm going to use the TypeScript compiler that we just installed 2 videos ago. We can access that compiler by writing out TSC. Remember, that stands for TypeScript compiler. And then I'll feed in the name of the file that I want to compile. I'll run that command, and then I'll get kicked back over to my terminal almost instantly. So it seems like nothing happened, but the compilation did occur. If you flip back over to your code editor and look at the file explorer on the left-hand side, you'll see that we've got a new file inside of here called index.js. So that is the compiled version of our TypeScript code. You can open up that file, and you'll see what TypeScript did to our code base. All right, so now to run this, we can use the node command line tool, and we'll run node index.js, and that will execute the compiled JavaScript file that we just created. So back at my terminal, I'll run node index.js. Notice the extension on here, we are running the JavaScript file. So if I run that command, I'll then see the to-do printed out on the screen. Perfect. All right, so as you might guess, having to always run tsc index.ts and then compile, and then run that resulting file gets really old really quickly. So to combine these 2 commands into just one, we also installed a little module 2 videos ago called ts-node. ts-node is going to combine these 2 commands into one. So it's going to automatically compile a given file and then automatically execute the resulting JavaScript. So it's just saving us from having to run that one extra command. So we can run ts-node and then the name of the TypeScript file that we want to execute. So index.ts. So I'll then run that command. And then I should see my JSON printed out. Yep, there we go. A little bit of a pause there. I guess my internet connection is a little bit spotty right now, but I saw the printout right there. So in one step, we compiled and then executed the resulting JavaScript. Okay, so that's how we put together a very basic TypeScript program and then execute it at the terminal. But I still haven't really shown you anything around, why TypeScript is handy here. So let's take a quick pause, and when we come back in the next video, we're going to start making a couple changes to this program, and then we'll very quickly see why making use of TypeScript is really, really handy. So quick pause and I'll see you in just a minute.